Good evening, good evening. Thank you for joining me tonight. I'm going to look at the church and Pride. If you haven't noticed, it is Pride Month. It's all over there, isn't it? Everywhere we go, we're reminded of that. But what is our response as the church? You know, it's a big thing. So let's get into it. I'm looking down at my buttons. Which one do I press first? It's the intro. So very much like you will see on a normal video, I've got everything set up here so you can subscribe to the channel, like the video, share it, make sure you hit that notification bell, all important. So every time I put out a video, you can make sure you get it first. So we are just making sure that everything's working. Hopefully everything's working. I haven't done a live for a while. Actually, I did a live in my previous place. So if anything is not going right, just tell me in the chat and I'll be able to get it out. If you want to put any questions or anything, we don't necessarily just have to speak about this. Sometimes it does get a bit much speaking about this stuff and the church, but it's something that we have to address and respond to as a church. As you know, I'm a vicar of the Church of England, and the Church of England is going through a torrid time, really, of this. Back in February, the General Synod voted to bless same-sex marriages, and it's really split the church on that subject, and it's been difficult for a lot of people. Where I am, I've stated that I won't do it, I can't do it. And that's divided some people in the church, definitely in the community. But this is the thing. How do we handle this as a church? Because we are in Pride Month, one of the months, should I say? Because it's not just the month, is it? It is many months at different times. Many companies are coming out and putting their logos to the pride flag. Very much associated with the rainbow as well, and this is slightly one of the other things. So tonight, really, as I get going, informal is a chat as well. So do, like I said, ask questions. As I've been out in the garden today. Here in the rectory, we got a big garden, and it hasn't been touched really for such a long time, and there's so much work to do. Not that I like gardening, but there's lots and lots to do. But one good thing is when you're out in the rectory garden is that you have a lot of time to think. So I was thinking about this today. I was thinking about how do we as a church respond, because we, you know, in my church, in the Church of England, and in many other denominations, we're split. And there are going to be churches out there who are going to celebrate this. They just really are going to celebrate this. And that's really just a difficult thing that we are dealing with. Now, how do we move forward? And that's a kind of separate issue. I watched last night, if you haven't seen him, Reverend Brett Murphy did a video on this the other day. Me and Brett are a couple of vicars who are speaking about this, getting our messages out there. Try not to overlap too much. Sometimes this one does, but and taking a different tact because we want to get our voices out there. So definitely don't jump off now, but definitely if you haven't subscribed to Brett, do that. And he speaks about the churches in his video from last week, from Friday, about the churches that are splitting on this. But I want to speak tonight about how do we as Christians respond. How do we respond to this? I will get to the chats as well. So this, as I've been in the garden, there are three things that I was thinking. First of all, this is a secular thing. This is something that's not from the church. This has come from the secular world. The pride month, the LGBTQIA plus agenda. Oh, I never thought I would even learn that, but I've learned it, but they do keep changing it. It's come from the secular world. It's not a Christian thing. In true biblical Orthodox churches and Judeo-Christian teaching, which is nearly 4,000 years old, and the teaching of the Christian church over the last 2,000 years, that sex is for marriage between a man and a woman. That's the teaching. So anything outside that is wrong. Between heterosexual couples who aren't married, that's wrong, and that's a slightly different thing where we don't speak about that enough, but we have to. But so outside of the churches that affirm this is a secular movement that has come into the church, and part of the church has embraced that and fallen away from the gospel. And then we got churches who stand in on orthodoxy, and the first thing that we have then is people. Ben Shapiro said this. I know he's Jewish, but on his video, it's Pride Month, and then it's persecution against the Church Month. It's persecution against, if you're Orthodox Jew, if you're Christian, you're going to get persecuted, and people are going to come against you because you say, "Look, I just don't believe this. This is not God's word. This isn't true." And it's how we respond to that. So, first of all, it's not a Christian thing. It's a secular thing that has come into the Christian church, and because it's come into the Christian church, we're having to deal with it. And sometimes it feels like we're dealing with it on the back foot because we've, as I said, because if you take marriage is between a man and a woman, sex is for a man and a woman in marriage. And because we've let that slip and just said, anything goes and that's fine, and that's an argument against the church. We're slightly on the back foot when it kind of gets to this, and so we have to acknowledge that, and we have to say, okay, we have not been, and keep the things coming in, the chats coming in and the comments. So we can be starting from the back foot because we've always we need to be strong on this. We need to be strong on this, and just seeing the things about Brett coming in, we need more vicars and priests and ministers and whatever, people who are seen as authority in churches and different denominations standing up. We don't want to just be me and Brett. We want thousands and thousands who will stand up. We don't know the implications. We kind of know the implications. I chat with Brett, by the way. He's going to come on my channel. We do communicate. But it is, potentially we get persecuted, but we will stand on God's word. So this is a secular thing coming into the church. It's not a church. It's not taught by the church. It's by the world coming in. The church has embraced it, and now how do we, as Orthodox Christians, deal with this? And this comes into my second point, as I was thinking in the garden. So in my local community, it got onto Facebook that I wouldn't bless same-sex marriages, and then part of the community responded, absolutely, but they were within their right. And one person wrote, it was quite interesting, what if your son or daughter or your children were, we should do a great live stream, we'll get on that, were gay, and I thought that was quite interesting for two reasons. One, you're assuming that if my son or daughter were gay, that they're going to go into a gay relationship and live that lifestyle. Not that they would say they were gay and I'm going to be I'm going to stay single and to honour God for that because I have this Christian teaching. So that's a quite interesting thing that people think. Well, if one of my children are, and they could be. Sorry if there's buffing. Let me just check the stream. It says good health. Hopefully it's your end, not mine, because everyone will get that there. So the assumption is if you are homosexual, you're going to live that lifestyle. As Christians, we wouldn't. Perhaps my children would. It's hot in here. Got lots of lights on. So I turned it on its head, and I thought, what if, and this is what we have to, answer, and how we deal with the public, I think, and this is where we have to challenge ourselves. If my son or daughter were, and they said, look, Dad, I know what you said, I know what you believe, but I'm going to go off. I met someone I'm happy and I want to marry them. What my reaction would be, I would still love my son. Let's take my son. I would still love my son. I would still be with him. We would disagree. He would be very clear. We would be very clear that I would be disagreeing with him on this. But I still love him. And what was interesting, the comment was on the Facebook was that I would disown him. And I thought, I wouldn't disown him at all. He's my son. I love him. And it'll be difficult, and it'll be emotional. It'll be emotional for both of us. And then I got to think, this is, if I would do that for my son, and it would be easy, but I still love him, he's still my son, then this is how I need to treat other people. And this is how we are as Christians. Now, we don't agree with their lifestyle, but we love them as people. And that can be quite a difficult thing, because otherwise, if you follow the logic on this, if I didn't do that for other people, then how could I do that to my son? And then I'm not called to treat people differently, and that's one of the hardest things as Christian, isn't it? That we treat everybody the same. I'm not going to say to my son it's okay, and then to say to somebody else it's not okay. I'm going to treat my son differently from you, because he's my son and I love him, and you I don't really know, so I'm going to condemn you, but I'm going to still have that relationship. So how we treat people is really important. And remember, it's not the person, it's the lifestyle that they choose to. So it's the sin that they continue to do. Sex outside marriage, basically, that's what it is. And because they're in homosexual relationships, obviously they're not in a marriage that would be recognised. And I have to say that because there's churches that will do marriages of homosexual people now, but they're not recognised from the Orthodox people. So I hope you get the logic on that. I hope you get where I'm going with that, and that's about how we treat people. Because this comes on to the third thing, and I watched a film on YouTube. Love the sin, I hate the sin. So I watched a film on YouTube with Kevin Sorbo. It's just come out. I forgot the name of it. Like Be the Light, or Be the. If anyone's seen it, or get it up on there, get it for me. Anyway, it's one of those Christian, typical Christian films. But in the film, because I always watch things like that, I watch a lot of stuff to try to get ideas on where people are going. If you hear banging, it's my daughter. I told her not to do gymnastics. She's gone to bed. She always does gymnastics. She's doing it. If you can hear that, it's cartwheels. Anyway, so in the film, and just checking to see if you can hear that. In the film, it says the man and the woman are Kevin Sorbo and his wife. She says to him, I had to write it down. She says, "You can't defeat an ideology on a battlefield alone." And he responds, "To defeat an ideology of evil, you need to have an ideology of good." And I found that really interesting, because I was like, the battlefield is the debate, isn't it? But the trouble that we have when we're responding to something like Pride Month as a church is that it's coming from the secular world into our values, and the secular world saying, well, this is okay, but you're out of date. We're then trying to debate that, but we're speaking two different languages, absolutely two different languages. And so when we're trying to discuss this, it's like speaking French and English. We're not understanding each other when we're trying to debate, because they're trying to say, look, this is what I want to happen, and we're saying that this can't happen, and Two very different languages. Let there be light. Well done. Let there be light. Is it 2017? I thought it was brand new. It's just catching up. Anyway, it's brand new on YouTube. So we're speaking two different languages. And when it comes out of, when we're trying to, and this is a great Instagram post I saw, when we're speaking two different languages, what happens then is that we won't ever agree, but we will then, it'll start being about control. We're trying to control, and that's what we see, isn't it, in the church? That's what we see with secular society, that they're trying to control what the church is doing, and we see that in the Church of England, because in the Church of England, if you've seen this, because we're the established church, Parliament are threatening to vote on same-sex marriage to force us to do it. So that's where the control comes in. They don't understand the church. They don't understand our views and why we have them, but they're saying we're going to now control you. We're going to force you to do that. So that's where you get this battlefield. Sometimes you can battle the ideology, and sometimes you'll win, but most often it's very difficult. And this is where I found this really interesting. To defeat an ideology of evil, you have to have an ideology of good. Now we've got the greatest ideology of good. We've got the gospel. We've got the good news of Jesus Christ. We've got a news that can speak into people's lives, which talks more out of the sexualization that has come with the pride. You think of pride, what do you think of? Put in the chat. What do you think of when you think of pride? What do you think? I got in my mind when they say pride nowadays is kind of two things, like the flag everywhere, and then the parades down the street. The parades down the street, and kids in there, because I think that's the sexualization of children and things like that. So that's what we have, is we can choose to go battle. We can choose to say, yeah, and we have to do that on one front, and there are people that get out there and to battle. And the other thing that we really need to do is put out that message of good. Well, there's a message of evil. Well, there's a message that is now coming in and you see children going out onto the these parades with families, and they're saying, well, this is okay, this is just happy, this is happy. It's not. It's like, okay, and we have to be fair, because you don't want to be too unfair, because again, if we just take snippets, if we see photos or videos, they're always going to be the videos that people choose to put out, right? So they're always going to be the more sexualized videos, and you could say that 90% of the parade is happy, but the thing is why is the other 10% there? Why does it need to be there? If you want to celebrate your rights and your freedoms that you've now received, then why are we bringing in the children and sexualization of children? And I get it was like for you guys, for them it was the education of children, so people wouldn't be treated so badly, and again, this is where we come back to like loving the person. We cannot treat people who are in those relationships or in that lifestyle so badly. We need to treat them with love, and this is why I love Ephesians 4:15, speaking the truth in love. But it's changed now, hasn't it? It's changed. It's gone more sinister, and this is one of the things. By the way, on this live stream, I will just talk. Just my mind. It's going to be a brain dump. That's what you'll see in my videos. That I start to edit, because I will just go on. The videos could be quite long. You know what I mean? You get what I mean? I think at the start for this movement, it was something that was what they felt was a good force. I'm not saying it was any good for the church or anything like that, but now it's changed. The stuff is coming in and it's getting too sinister. But to respond as a church, this is what I'm saying. we got to realise there's a secular thing coming into the church. Part of the church has fallen away. And I don't want to deal with that part of the church. We're standing on the Bible. The lines for us, like in the Church of England, have been drawn. That's it now. They voted, and they're going to try to get this through. The lines have been drawn. And I love my brothers and sisters out there who are vicars and go to other churches, which I fundamentally disagree with, and I'll pray for them. But we can't now, like the church, like the Archbishop of Canterbury, try to find that middle way. We can't. Someone came to see me the other day and they said, what did they say? Rev Dan, we need to, in my church, we need to find a middle ground. I said, we can't. We can't find a middle ground on this. We cannot find a middle ground. What we need to do is understand that you're here and I'm here. And that's where we start from. Not trying to work our way to a middle ground. We can't find a middle ground. A decision has been made, which has made those lines drawn. Before, we knew what people thought, whether we do it or not. But now, people will actually do it. This is different. It's actually going to happen in the Church of England. And so those... that part of the church is just not... So we talk about the Orthodox Church here. Then we go to, as I went to my second example, it's about how would I react if my son or my child was this way? I couldn't go to the wedding, but I would still love my son. I would still have a relationship. And so that's how we treat people who come in. And I really want people to come into my church and feel welcomed, and that they can be in my church. But I will say to them from day one, if I knew, if it was obvious that we're in the same-sex relationship, this is where I stand. But I want you to stay because I want them to hear the gospel. Because remember, this is a if they're not Christians, there's a bigger problem. It's what I always say. If you're not a Christian, you've got a bigger problem. You're not going to go to the same place I'm going. So let's start there, and then we'll address the other stuff. And then, do we battle? Do we go on head on, or do we preach a better gospel? And then how do we preach that better gospel? Because they got this gospel of indoctrination, wokeness, and all that's coming in. And we got the gospel of Jesus Christ that changes lives. And that's a whole other thing. Can you... there's a danger now, and the government's doing this, and this is the other side, is that we could be done for conversion therapy. If we say we'll pray for you, it's quite scary. But we need to stand on this. This is a battle. This is the battle. So let's get on to let's have a look at what you're saying. You're saying quite a lot. So, add your comments. I got a little button. Look here. Woof. Add your comments down below if you're watching after or in the chat. Would a person who put themselves in a position where they would preach the word of God on the street, they can be arrested, or maybe even praying in your own mind for the soul of aborted babies? Why would a person put themselves in a position to preach? Why? There's some people... I forgot her name. I did a video on her. The lady standing outside and got arrested twice. And then you got the vicar in the church, or the priest in the Catholic Church who did it in Birmingham as well. Why? Because you get people like that. And God bless them that they get arrested for that. At least they get arrested for that than going to a climate protest and gluing themselves to something. And the vicars in the Church of England are doing that. But, doing it for babies are getting aborted, that's a great thing, and that's a calling. I mean, I can't imagine the grief that she's getting, and the priest, but that is a massive calling. And you should, an abortion, abortion is a bigger issue for me than same-sex marriage, to be honest. You can be arrested for just thinking about it. Did I read that question right? Anyway, you know what I mean. But where the priest protested against it, yeah, God, where, there's this thing, and this is what Brett's saying, there's this thing in the Church of England of people are not putting their heads above the parapets. And I've been reflecting on this as well, that if we don't, why aren't people doing it? Because they're scared. They're scared of the bishops have a lot of power, and that people will come after them. And me and Brett are doing that. Brett is like forthright. He's right there. But we'll say it because we feel like we got to that point that we can't be quiet now. You know, if you notice, Brett started his channel just straight after or around the same time in February. My channel's been going for years. Just taken off with all this. I avoid this. I avoid to talk about all this stuff. My wife asked me many years ago, please don't do this, please don't do this. But now, you know, just said, well, I have to. But we need more people talking about this, and they don't want to put their heads above the parapets for fear of being shot down. But it's in trusting God. That's one of the things. It's trusting in God that we put our heads above the parapets. Maps. The maps thing. Oh, I just lost that. Maps, minor attractive persons. Yeah, this is that's the thing coming out of America. And this is the thing with all this. So the whole thing with the pride thing, the coming in. I remember when I was a kid and we used to talk about fashion, like coming up from America. There'd be a fashion in America and it would come over to the UK, you know, many months later and stuff like that, as most things did. And so we're getting all this stuff from the States. And some of it we're fighting off, but we're getting to the stuff. And the maps thing, the minor attractive kid, if you have not seen that, you need to look at it. It's really, really scary. Their own flag, and it's like the whole, it's a born this way. Okay. Sorry, I need a drink now. Isabella Vaughan Spruce. She's amazing. She's amazing, and what I love about her, she just comes across like so just normal, and she is. She isn't normal, but you know what I mean. She's just so quiet, and when she gets arrested, she's there, and then she'll come back for praying. It's like, wow, and what she's doing, she's really highlighting. Same with the girl with the Down syndrome who's fighting for the stopping Down syndrome. I'm going off topic, but bishops have really defined sin without any explanation. Yeah, and I've heard stuff coming out that they have no idea. They have no idea what they're doing. We are in a bad situation in the Church of England, but every church is going through it. You look at the Methodist Church, the URC, United Reformed Church, the Baptists are going down that way. It's just Catholics as well. So Truth Junkie, yes, you're not saying, yeah, I get that. You're saying the interaction between church and state is now beyond control. It is. Yeah, keep me and Brett in your prayers. Do that. Truth Junkie, as a veteran, it pains me to the core that pride gets a whole month, yet veterans a day. How did this even happen? Yeah, man, like the whole pride thing is a real yeah. I mean, like you have to question, don't you? Now, with the whole pride, it's an agenda. Because you're right, why don't veterans, both over in the US and I know there's a huge problem in the US with veterans and the UK being homeless, and why are they not recognised for what they've done more than a day when you got a whole month where companies literally change their logo. Change their logo. Except for if they're in the Middle East. Have you seen that? If they're in the Middle East, sorry, they don't change their logo at all. Do it in a Christian country though, and yet for really worthwhile causes, they will not. They'll give a day. They'll give a day and let people just really, suffer. UK sneezes, US sneezes, UK cats is cold. Maps want inclusion to be treated equally. Yes, not. Luckily, not in the UK. Not in the UK yet, but it's coming, because this is slippery slope. If you saw, and it's a good time to plug my channel. If you saw my video on Friday, so on Fridays I do Rev Dan's Roundup, where I look at the news in the Christian world. And on a Tuesday, and this Tuesday, I'll be doing Digging Deeper, where I'll take one of those stories and I'll go deeper into it and look at what's happening in the Diocese of Truro at the moment. And which is what is happening in the Diocese of Leicester, which is the same video that I did, the same thing that I did last Tuesday. It's the same thing. It's the way the Church of England's going. Reverend Brett is up in Leicester, and he's on the next on the list. So he's getting it all ways. So on my roundup, I talked about euthanasia, because the previous Archbishop, Lord Carey, talked about we should do euthanasia on people who are near the end of their lives with incurable diseases. But in I said in Canada, they're now telling people, if you're depressed, you could get euthanized. You can, and they're actually actively doing this. A bioethicist, I think that it was in the article, said, if you're poor, you should die. You should die. And this is a slippery slope, see. And I will try and bring it back to the LGBT, because that's what the title of the video is about, right? But I will go off. This is that slippery slope. So if you start, so that's what I was saying before. So the LGBTQIA plus thing came in, and then it's drifted. Well, it started LGBT. Probably just started out LG, and then they added B, and then T, and then all the others. So so you can see it's moving, and now, and this is the danger that we have, is plus. Like, what is plus? Every time we do plus, what are we doing? So if you look at the paperwork for the Church of England, they keep telling us it's a marriage between a man and a man, sorry, or a woman and a woman who've been in a long-term relationship, right? And that's the argument. They love each other. They've been together for like 30 years. We should just do it. We should just bless them. And yet they keep using LGBT plus in the paperwork, and it's like, what's plus? And like, if you put that plus through, and you put G, L, G, B, and you put the B and T through, but you talk about L and G, what are we opening ourselves up for? And this is a danger. So like, when people use plus, that's where you get these minor attracted persons. And what I just again, on another video I did, a vicar down in Chichester Diocese got caught with loads of indecent images of children and animals, like, just sick. And then we're just like, it's just, we're letting it slip. So I'll come up with the solution in a sec about what we should do. On Friday, I was watching GB News, and the host asked people to write in and tell them what they thought of the LGBT plus nonsense. I wrote an email, and I was shocked when they read it out loud. Well done, Truth Junkie. Well done. If you like, you can forward me that email or something. Yeah, you do that. That's fine. if you find my email, people find my email on online, because I'm in the church. So you just search. So I'm in a place called Chalfont St Giles. If you look at Chalfont St Giles, our website, you can get my email address off there. Plus covers a multitude of sin lights mass. Go back to the teaching of the Bible, not PC, and won't answer. It is, and this is where it is, right? We have my Bible. I got many Bibles. How many Bibles do you have? I have so many Bibles. So if you watch my other channel, Fulfilling Life, or one of my other channels, this is the Bible that I use. I record it just behind me over there. People come into my office, they're like, oh, they're like, wow, you are. Am I looking at the camera or looking at me? I keep forgetting. I think I might be looking at me and not the camera. Yeah, I'm looking at me all the time. So we had this. This is the guide back to life. Right, I was an atheist for like 20 years, okay, before I became a Christian. And I really did, when I became a Christian, I really didn't like the Bible that much. I really didn't like it as an atheist. Because I found it really difficult, because it was telling me to live a certain way which I didn't want to live, and I found it very difficult. And but going over my time, the scenes, something on my computer. Going over my time as a Christian, I love this book now, and it keeps me like straight, and it guides me, and it still challenges me. And there's bits that I don't like, and there's bits that I absolutely love. So we have this book here, and I've always got a Bible near me, or I carry a Bible, and this will help and guide us. And in this, we have Jesus showing us the way. So on my other, I'm not promoting every channel. I got 3 channels, but it's called Revved Up. I do a sermon on the back of my motorbike. One, because I love preaching, and 2, I love riding my motorbike, and I put them together. Crazy, but it's so much fun. I'm going for the Gospel of Mark, and what I'm seeing is Jesus, his compassion for people. His compassion and how he treats people and how he gets them included. Now, what I also see with Jesus is that he doesn't hold back. He doesn't hold back. He speaks the truth but has compassion. So you've got these 2 things in tension. We've got this thing of we don't like pride. By your waffling. I am. Sorry, John. Sorry if I'm waffling. I do waffle. I did say at the beginning. So we've got these things. We've got this... he's throwing me. John's throwing me. What was I saying? John threw me. We got these 2 tensions. That we have the Bible, which we have people coming, and we got these things we fundamentally disagree. I got it now. I got it back. We got these things we fundamentally disagree with, right? Like pride. But we also have the teachings of Jesus, and they will clash, because Jesus died for what he was doing. They hated what he was doing, and he was pointing out all the things that are wrong in the world, and ultimately that's what we do. But we many people came to Jesus and followed him, and if you're reading through the Gospels, if you take one Gospel and you just read through it, you'll see that you constantly see crowds coming around him, the message that he's giving, and he's not holding back, but he's having compassion on people, and he's healing people, and he's speaking about the good news to people, but it's going very countercultural to the world. But there are more people who are more sinister and fighting against him, and ultimately killed him. But there were people who were coming to him as well because of the message he was preaching. Now this comes back to what I was saying before. You have it's finding that good message in darkness, the light in the darkness, the message of good against the message of evil, and loving the people. And so we hold these 2 things in tension. This is what we have to do as a church. This is what we have to do during Pride Month, as it's plastered everywhere, is to go, this is the world. This is what the world is now, and this is not going to change for a while. I do believe that the world will push back on this. Absolutely, they will push back on this. And we won't see as much in the next generations to come, but we need to hold fast. We need to stand strong on this, and we need to condone it, but at the same time love people. And you say, well, how can I do that? Well, that goes back to the example that what I was thinking about with my son, that I couldn't agree if he wanted to marry another man, but I wouldn't stop loving him and being a major part in his life. And I would centre all this round, not just the Bible, but prayer. And I think that's our greatest weapon. That's our greatest weapon at the moment, is to pray, to have prayer warriors praying against this stuff. Absolutely, just being on our knees, and in every time that we pray, just praying against this stuff. And it might not change now, but as I said, in the generations to come, in and outside Christianity, that there will be a pushback against this, because all we have to do, and as I've been speaking, is all we have to do is to wait for them to go to that point where people, the everyday people just go, it's gone too far. And we're reaching that point. We're reaching that point at the moment. So, apart from me waffling, I will learn that for future. Let's go back to the chat. I discovered the Invitation to Christ, which is also a great book for disciples of Christ. Absolutely. That's it. That's the other thing. We cannot fall as Christians. We need to stand strong. And that is, it's you look at the early church, you look at the disciples, it's prayer, it's the scriptures, it's fellowship, and it's communion. That's what the full things they were doing in the book of Acts, and very early on. And we need to hold to those things. And discipleship is a massive one. What the Blaze is two-spirit sexuality. Yeah, I heard stuff. I haven't gone that far into it. Oh, Stormlight Photography. I remember you just before you converted, mate. Saw the change of blacks. Is that Graham? Stormlight Photograph. Is that Graham? If it is, repentance and such, you were repentant. Sorry, Elaine. Repentance and such were some of you, the apostle. Is this advocating for or against? In what sense? I don't hold to pride at all. I hold a Christian view, so that goes against pride. Thank you for your channels. Much appreciated support. Thank you, Claire. You don't waffle. That guy was just rude. Good. This is, you'll see the real Rev Dan here. So, do you agree? You agree? Let's put the comment up. That we need to pray through this. I think this is such a worldwide thing, and it's gone into so many companies. Thank you, Truth Junkie. It's gone into so many companies, and we're battling against it in schools, and we're battling. And this is where we need to stand on the truth of the gospel. This is what we need to stand firm, and this is where we need to come out and state where we are. Especially church leaders, that we need to stand up, and this is what, going back to before, a lot of people won't stand up because it's quite a thing to be out in public. So when I did my video, a church, hello Graham, when I did my video, I'm leaving the Church of England, which is such a clickbait video, that got attention, it got me in the local paper, it got me in the local Facebook group and things, and people didn't like it, but it gave me an opportunity to explain my position. And I suppose that's the other thing. Since I've come out to state that I can't do it, I've been able to have conversations with people. People still disagree with me, but they understand better where I come from. And I think that's one of the big things as well, is conversations and facing those who fundamentally disagree with us. Going back to the last point of the three that I made. Not to battle. Some people can battle. I haven't got the intellect to think of things on the spot. You know, when people go out and you see those videos on YouTube and they're just such a great brain that they bring stuff up. I haven't got that. But I got the gospel of Jesus Christ, and I got enough knowledge to speak into the situation. By the way, if you want a really good resource on this issue of homosexuality and the church, check out Mike Winger. Mike Winger, been on YouTube, got a really great YouTube channel now. Just such long videos that I just don't have time to watch them. But he a few years ago did a 4-part series for his church. So it's recorded in his church on the church. The church and homosexuality. And the first part is the Old Testament. The second part is the New Testament, and then he gets into society, and also then he gets into like the damage and the life expectancy and things, because it's quite a brutal act that two men will do against each other, and so looking at the science of it all, and it's such good teaching. It's such good teaching that that you I think it's one of the most comprehensive teaching, and this is the thing with Mike Winger. He kind of does all the work for you. I try to get him on the channel. I try to get him. I asked, and I'm not quite sure if he will. Yeah, it might. He's so busy, and that's a response. He said he's so busy, and I said, well, does that mean I'm booked in or not? So, but it's having that. So I use his resources to point people into. You know, I haven't got all the answers like he has, but I point people to his resources. I'm worried that I might not be answering my own question about how we respond, but I think it is about prayer, standing firm on our word, conversations, and also understand where people are coming from, listening to where they're coming from and why they hold such views. And I'm finding that people who hold a contrary view, when it gets to pride and things like that, is either because of their lifestyle, because they are LGBTQI+, or they know somebody, and it's very hard for them to hold what Jesus is calling us to do and how he's calling us to live with their love of their son or daughter, and it's really tearing people apart. So it's a real big pastoral response of the church. How do we help people when they're really torn? And I think that's one of the biggest things, and what the church have to understand. Sometimes we can say, no, it's all sin, and yes, it is, but for people it's so personal that we have to be very pastoral and help guide them through the emotional tearing apart that they would have, to then understand what Jesus is saying and what the Bible's saying. So put your thoughts. I can press. Let's press this one. Like the video. Comment. You'll see these on my video. Share and subscribe. Let's get back. Where are we going? Remnant Radio, that's really good as well. Very, very, very good. Some of these YouTube videos, the whole Mike Winger one, by the way, I listen to, because you can listen to them. You don't necessarily need to watch them. I listened to as I was doing the garden. So if you were here at the start, I was doing the garden. See, it gets me to think a lot. I have a chapter tomorrow. I'm thinking of asking my colleagues who are willing to bless couples, as I think it would be more pastoral response from turn them down. Be able to point them to where they can go. Tyro, this is exactly what. So if you're not Church of England, a chapter is, you get areas like we call them deaneries, a group of churches, and we're divided into areas, and we meet. As a chapter is the vicars, really, the ordained people, and they meet. And at my chapter a few weeks ago, somebody asked that question, and this is a thing in the Church of England. This is a thing in the Church of England, is whether people get an email and asking if they're going to bless a same-sex marriage, or we just do it out of practicality. We're all exposed, or we all will have to answer that question, because people will want to out us. People will genuinely want to get a blessing, or we will want to be practical. And so someone asked in our chapter, you'll see the way my mind works at the moment. There is a noun for a group of vicars as they meet. I think it's a gaggle or something like that. And somebody did ask, someone who's Orthodox, which churches out there in our area, in our deanery, will do it, so we can point people towards you. And so people then realised, ooh, do I say or do I not? And I said, look, we're all going to have to say where we are at one point or another, and it just helps us to know where we are. So, yeah, absolutely. I think, Tyro, it's a question that has to be asked, and people won't want to answer that question. But the other thing is, because some people in my chapter didn't know this, that it's down to the incumbent. So I said in my parishes that I will not do it. I will not allow my clergy that serve with me to do it, and I will not allow any clergy to be snuck in, as it were, to do it. Because it's me, it's down to the incumbent. Some of the vicars didn't know that. Some of the incumbents didn't know that. The incumbent is the lead person, as it were. Mr. B, when one's company supports Pride Month openly, it's acceptable point to the Christian perspective. Pride, in the general sense of sin. Okay. A preacher Parsons. I once saw a guy near me, where I used to live before I became a vicar, did Pint with a Parson. I really wanted it. I thought, that's great, Pint with a Parson. Mr. B, when one's company supports Pride Month openly, is it acceptable to point out the Christian perspective on pride, in the general sense being a sin? Ooh, yeah, this is the... yeah, because so many companies out there that... I was thinking this, if you start boycotting companies who support Pride, and let's be in reality, I don't think all companies that support it as they put out in that sense, because not all companies, like all the people in the company do, then do you boycott them? And you thought, you'll never be able to buy, you'll never be able to shop anywhere or buy anything. So when your company now, so I was listening a couple of days ago when I was hosing the patio down, getting all the pressure washing. If you heard of Frank Turek, he does the podcast Not Enough Faith to Be an Atheist. So I'm just looking at my phone. No. Frank Turek, I don't have enough faith to be an atheist. It's a podcast he's on YouTube as well. So he did one of his podcasts in the last couple of weeks saying, how do you approach your company when they do something that you don't agree with? Do you do it directly, or do you go up and say... And I think what he said there was quite interesting. Like, if you're going to go in to them directly, you know you're in trouble already. Look at the teacher the other day. The teacher who's got banned from teaching full life because because he's a Christian, he wouldn't use a kid's pronouns. A kid who more than likely, statistically, by the time they get to 18, 19, 20, will not be the gender that they're saying that they are at the time that this incident happened. And he's got banned for life. So the way that Mr. B, this address of Mr. B got questioned. So the way that Frank Turek said, I would go and find that podcast or the YouTube video, because he is doing it in such a way that is, what do you call it? I'm just asking a question. So we're supporting Pride, right? Great. Do we support anything else out there? What other things do we do? It's just doing it in such a way. My collar's squiffy. So hopefully that answers your question. That's very interesting, useful. I'm a vicar. I am with you and Brett. Keep going. Very brave and honest. Thank you, Philip. Keep praying for us. Thank you, John, as well. Truth, thank you. Vengeance is mine. I will repay, saith the Lord. Paul to the Romans. Now, isn't that supposed to mean that we leave punishment to the transgressors, to his capable hands? Yeah. There's so much going on in the world now. It's, in a sense, picking your battles. Now, this pride and LGBT is really affecting so many vicars' lives. But if I had to pick my battle, it would be abortion. That'd be abortion. And I'll say, God, the rest, this is over to you. And what people are doing about this is until it goes to that line, right? Until it goes to that line, we have to battle this. But abortion will be my number one thing, because a life is lost. A life is lost. But if it started coming down to like the children thing and the normalization, the sexualization of children, which it is, but if it's getting like it was it is in the States, then we step up. We step up. But do we have that time? And I mean, do we have that time? Because we're battling so many things here. We're battling so many things in the world. So many things. It's really truly fallen. And if there's one thing that Pride, and I talk about preaching a gospel of good, an ideology of good in an ideology of evil, Pride should actually help us. It should actually help us point people and have conversations with people about how the world has fallen and how Pride is moved from celebrating lesbian and gay and bisexual people into this ideology now, which is just going to the sexualization of children. Many people will listen to that, but it's down to us to be able to speak to people in a way that brings the good and the hope of Jesus Christ, and then brokenness, the hope of Jesus Christ. And would that restrict him to the kind of tools he would use? I think, what we've got to do, Truth Junkie, is also hold that we're all going to be judged at the end for those good things and bad things that we have done, myself included. And so I can't put myself saying that I'm any less of a sinner than anybody else, just because they're choosing to live a lifestyle that I still sin, and I try not to do stuff, and I try every day, but I know that I'm fallen. Yes, I know that I'm redeemed by Christ, but I will still have to answer for those stuff that I've done. I always say, if Jesus was in front of you and you were, this is with sin, right? And you were stabbing him and he's looking at you, you would stop. You would stop, right? You would stop doing it, because you realise that when he was on the cross and he's taking your sins, then you would stop. It's easier to, that's why I say people stabbing in the back. It's easier to stab someone in the back, they're not looking at you. And at the moment we feel like that we're stabbing Jesus in the back. And this is for you and for me personally. Imagine that Jesus standing looking at you in the face when you're sinning, when you're doing your sin, and you're stabbing him in the chest. If you were doing that in real life, you would stop. You would drop that knife. You'd go, what am I doing? What am I doing? And yet, And so I try to use that when I feel that I'm repeating sin. But we can't put ourselves above people. But we also understand that pride. I'm still not answering the question. But we're having fun, right? We're having fun. Frank Turek, yes, read his book. I question my company all the time. I'm the black sheep. It's good to question, but don't be like me if you're like that truth junkie, because I used to get in such trouble. I still am. This is why I'm on YouTube, because I will speak about these. I try to speak smartly as well, but I will speak about this. I do worry that I was looking at the screen too much, and people who watch this back, okay, that guy's looking at the screen. As Christians, we are bound to testify the truth. And this is the thing, right? Leonard Ravenhill, an English guy over in the States, I don't know how long he was there, but definitely in the 90s. I heard him say, that he was a pupil of Tozer's. And Ravenhill said, if you saw someone carrying a cross out the city, they weren't going to come back. And, referring to Jesus as one. And that's what we have to do as truth. If we're saying we're Christians, we have to hold that and step up. But we have to caveat that as well, because you have to understand who you are and what you can do. Who has God made you to be? Now, we're not all the same who will go on to YouTube and do the videos and stuff like that. There are people who will do that and can do that, but we're not all called to do that. But we are called to do something, and we are called to use our gifts and talents that God has given us and our personalities to go and do what we're called to do. And some people will do it in such a way, and I forgot her name now, up the chat, Isabel Vaughan, who will just stand there so quietly praying. And it's so powerful. I think more powerful than what I've done, for sure. And yet she knows who she is, and she'll stand out and do this. So we do need to speak out, but speak out in the way that God's called you to speak out in, using your gifts and talents. And when you do that, I think it'll be incredibly powerful. But we need to speak out. We haven't got any choice now. The world's coming so against. As the person said before with the Retron, they get a day, and the LGBT get a whole month. We need to speak out, and we need to say no. As a church, we condone it. We don't support this, but we pray that everybody comes to know Jesus, both people in that lifestyle and allies, because this is the other thing now, right? It's allies as well. Allies has become a whole section. I know people who are allies, because I have to question, oh wow, I didn't know they were a lesbian or gay, and they're not. They're ally and just as strong in there. So we have to pray for that. Rev Dan, Truth Junkie. Now we must all fear evil men, but there's another kind of evil which we must fear most, and that is the indifference of good men. It's just true. Yeah. Yes, sorry, I was just reading the next thing I'll get onto. Yes. And this is to say, one of the most evil things is to do nothing. Frank Turek talks about this, or was it him, or a book I was listening to. There's the sin of, and help me out because I've forgotten one of them, the sin of omission and the sin of commission, I think it might be. So the sin of doing something and the sin of not doing anything, and they can be just as bad. So there's a sin of, you can watch somebody beating somebody up, and that person who's beating the other person up, what they're doing is horrendous. And you've got somebody who's just stood there watching it, and not doing anything about it. And that's horrendous. You know, so they could stop it, and they could stop any damage being done to that person. Even if there isn't damage of physical kind, there's damage of psychological kind. So there's a sin of commission and omission. Jam 84, Buddhism is what is the one true path. Buddhism is an atheist religion, my friend. The Buddhists do not believe that there's a God. There's nothing. Well done. You're just playing. You're not even a Buddhist. Claire, my brother was denied a job interview from a big company because he did not state his pronoun. Disgusting. This is, you know. And what's a pronoun? You know. You could state anything nowadays as pronouns. People do it on Twitter all the time, Lord and Master, and you know, Jesus' pronoun would be servant king. Testify to the truth, be prepared to confess to be a sinner too when people accuse you of hypocrisy. Absolutely, Mr. B. We cannot put ourselves above other people because we're sinners as well. And we have to admit that. I spoke yeah, I will go soon as well, Graham. I'm rambling, but just get my camera. I'll finish with the story. So, before I got ordained, the night before I get ordained in 2015, so the Church of England, you get ordained a deacon, and then you get a year later you get ordained a priest. And so you spend a year serving, so you can't do blessings and communions and things like that. And I went to theological college with this guy. He was same-sex attracted, and the night before we got ordained, we was in a room and we was chatting, and he was telling me tomorrow is a big day, and I was like, why is it a big day? And he said, because I did meet someone. I was in a relationship, a same-sex relationship, and I was in love with this guy. And he was going to a church called St. Ebbs in Oxford, and the rector there, Vaughan Roberts, who's also same-sex attracted but living a celibate life, he challenged this guy, and he said, you need to go read the Bible again. So, my friend, he read the Bible, not from the point of view of wanting to get rid of his boyfriend, but from the point of view of wanting to keep his boyfriend. And he couldn't see it. He said, I couldn't see it. I read the Bible more objectively for one way, and I couldn't see it. And so I broke up with him. And he followed this calling to become a priest in the Church of England. And he said, tomorrow, when I get ordained, I'm giving my life fully. That's it, fully. I'm never going back. You know, it's like when a nun commits and marries Jesus in that sense, that they're fully now committed. He already was, but in his mind. And I found that just so incredibly powerful, that he looked at the Bible and he could only see the truth, and as the Bible says, the truth sets him free, and now he's more happy in serving God but being celibate and single than he probably would have been in that relationship. That's a big thing to say. I can't really say that on his behalf, but you know, but it was an incredibly powerful testimony from him, and I'm just thinking why I started that. Anyone remind me? Going through thinking about the story so much that I forgot. Judas month dedicated to the Sacred Heart of Jesus in Catholicism. Pints at Aquinas is producing a t-shirt with his image and reclaim the month. Yes, Pints with Aquinas. So Pints with Aquinas. So I saw that because Calvin, Mr. Calvin Robertson, if he watches this, I'm still waiting for your email. Calvin's going to come on this channel. He's agreed to come on this channel for an interview. But he's so busy. So I kind of got to know Pints Aquinas because he went over to do Pints Aquinas with them as we were chatting. I was texting him or not texting, on Twitter with Calvin when he was on the plane on the way over. And I was like, what are you doing? He's like, Pints of Aquinas. So I watched him. So they're good guys. They're good guys. You know the other thing, just before I leave, so I gotta go to bed. Ish. It's bringing Orthodox together. It's bringing Orthodox together, and so we've got the Baptists and the Anglicans and some Catholics and some Methodists, Orthodox, and we're all coming together, and we're coming together in prayer and fellowship and support of each other. Evangelicals in the Church of England with trad Catholics in the Church of England, who used to be seen as enemies, are now coming together and supporting each other against the liberal agenda coming into the Church of England. And so we got to celebrate that actually the church is coming back together. So in the I just saw the thing, they want to convert Calvin to Catholicism. I don't know him personally, but Calvin's quite strong on his. He calls himself an evangelical Catholic, doesn't he? So if there's one thing let's not throw this away. Let's not throw this away. That God uses these things. He uses these. I'm going to press this button. He uses these things that happen in the world to move the church. To move the church forward. And I believe that the whole same-sex blessings thing in the Church of England is calling the church back to holiness. That we've lost the holiness. We've lost the teaching of the Bible. We've lost that seeking God's face. But the whole of this ideology is going on in the world and invading the ideology into the churches is bringing the denominations closer together. Now, we might not agree on stuff. I've got a good friend just in the Baptist church down the road, and my son said to me, "What's the difference between you guys?" He said, "What's the difference?" I said, "Well, I got baptized as a baby, so he doesn't believe that I'm actually baptized, and I believe that if I agreed with him, he can't baptize me because he's not an Anglican and he's not ordained." Not that I really do believe all that anyway. Okay, let's finish up here. Church is not Nottelgama. Sounds like Notre Dame. This group is the most dangerous and hard to deal with, but they will not escape God's judgment. This is the thing. With all this, we live in a broken world, people. We live in a broken world. We are a remnant here. We live in the world, but not of the world. We are exiles. We await heaven. And the path that most people take is wide, and a few will take the narrow path. We are going to battle the world. We will not agree with the world. It's invaded the church, or this ideology has invaded the church. But at the end, God will judge everyone. God will judge everyone, and people won't like that. But, one good thing when you think about it is all these people that get away with crimes, horrendous crimes, they get away with it. And they get away with it for technicalities on earth. They will not get away with it in heaven. They will be judged by a God who... That's it. James Austin, firmly Anglican in his theology. Calvin, yes. Mr. B, great. The Christian denominations are getting united against the great apostasy of Christendom. They are. You weigh up what's more important, your theology on this or this. Is this theology bad? Is it a first-rate thing? The thing is, the church is getting so apostate that it is. We need to unite. We're stronger together. And the church is dying in the West. The church is dying. I did a video on that as well, about not just the church, but religion. Dia gratis. Not to garmer. Because the devil had closed himself as one of us. When it comes to confronting it, it'd be difficult because they accuse us of not being loving and trusting ourselves as brethren. And yet anyone who denies my Lord is not brethren, and they make me feel condemned. And not all of us will be silenced like that for the word of God. It says, as we know, the tactics of the devil. If you celebrate Pride Month, I will give you the church of the world. You know, we also live in a church which is the wheat. I forgot the name. The tares. That we can't shift out. We can draw our lines, but we're also is always going to be infecting the world, and the devil's going to do that. I was speaking to someone the other day, and I was saying to them about the whole same-sex blessings in the Church of England, that they asked me what I thought, and I said, you know, I was riding my motorbike up to this meeting, and I was thinking about it on my bike, and I thought, it's just real demonic. Do you get this? The feelings are heightened. People are more heightened in their feelings, and people are leaving church over this. People are tares sown with wheat. Yeah, that's it. Tares sown with the wheat. That's what I was right. It's people are leaving church. People are drawing lines in the way, and it's like, why? This is it's a big thing, but it feels more because it's demonic, because people's feelings are being manipulated, because people are being manipulated on this, and I just feel, and I feel this, I've been feeling it for a while, like you feel it, you feel it demonic about this, and the people that come against you. I would suggest politely that if people are responding to others' comments, that they specify to whom they are responding. Hard to follow otherwise, especially when in catch-up mode. Well done, Annie. Pride Month. Mr. B, I saw that the other day. Who was that did that Pride Month demon? Was that Calvin or somebody? I'm just reading the Truth Junkie to Not to Karma, the church. You know, and I keep saying that I finish. I will finish. People are struggling with their churches and where they go to worship. And you have to check your churches. Because this is a battle, and this is the bigger thing. If we're going to stand up to pride, except, like I said, pride is a world thing. That's invading the church, but we got the gospel of truth and light, that we need to do it in a way that speaks to people and loves people and understands people and listens to where people are coming from. But you have to be in a church that is standing on the gospel, that is orthodox, that is teaching this, but with truth in love. We speak the truth, but in and through love. To people, and a lot of people are really finding now that the church they've been going to has not been teaching the gospel as it should be taught. And again, I think this is another thing that God's using. We have to stand up now and be counted, and we have to preach the gospel, and people will be called out, and bad vicars will be called out, bad pastors, bad priests, whatever you call us, they'll be called out, and they will be known by their fruit. God knows us by our fruit. God knows us by our fruit. But now people are starting to know, and they're starting to ask questions. And if they don't answer those questions, and if they don't start preaching the gospel, those churches will die. And so, with all this as well, I think God's using this. He's going to use this. I don't think He's caused this. I think this is a broken world. But I think He's using this. Here you go, on a happier note. This is what we want. This is what we want, celebration. I get sick of talking about all the stuff, but the stuff is just in the world and we have to respond to it. But happy birthday, Tyro. 50. I'm getting towards 50. Not for a few years yet, but I'm getting towards 50. Happy birthday. What are you doing? on your 50th birthday watching me. and I mean that with all graciousness, but I speak in truth and love. I don't know where you are in the world. That's what I was going to say. Put where you are in your world. Say where you are. Say where you're watching from, so I know you. Wrote down, why as a follower of the Lord do I need a church when he is with me and have the good book by my side? Should I go to a corrupt house of God to become corrupted myself? No. Truth Junkie, I don't know if you was there before. If you look at the Gospels, if you look at the early church in the Gospels, and I preached on it, and I remember preaching on it the other day, you'll learn, if you get to know me, I got this thing in my memory and I can't remember stuff at all. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's one of those things that I didn't know until I got older. And I'm looking through. No, we were going for the Gospel. We were going for Acts. It'd take me too long. But Truth Junkie, it's basically, if you look at the early church, what they said was 4 things which they put the early church on. Prayer, fellowship, the scriptures, and communion. So you need that fellowship, and you need brothers and sisters alongside you to walk on that journey with. You need a mentor. You need people to work alongside the journey with you on discipleship. You need to be accountable. But also you need to receive communion, and you can't receive communion alone. So when we do communion in the church, we do it very individualistically. We come up and we receive one bread and wine. We're in the Church of England, little round little bits, and the wine. And it becomes an individual thing. But communion is about together and doing it together, breaking bread together. It's a meal that we share together. So if you take away yourself out of that, you can't do that. Now, push my other channel, Fulfilling Life, which is a daily devotional. If you go onto that channel, look, it's linked into this channel. I did do a devotional called something about being a lone wolf, and you have to be in a church. So even if you have to travel to a church, travel to an Orthodox church, absolutely. Mr. B, English Midlands. What's the English Midlands? I know the Midlands. My mum was from the Black Country. My dad was from Birmingham. Glasgow. Worcestershire. I was Worcestershire. I was born in. No, I had to be born in Birmingham because my mum would die if she wasn't, because of complications at the time. But I brought up in Herefordshire, so I know Worcestershire. I like to go to church, but our local church is a lefty one, and 3 stroppy, unholy female clergy in the diocese has ignored my complaints. Yeah, this is the problem of the Church of England. You might have to travel. You just have to. I think fellowship, and I think this time where we need to be stronger together. We need to. God bless you. Draper reacts. Oh, hi Dan, you're from church. I haven't seen you. I've been off. I'm on holiday. This week from church, which is great. Carol Brett's advice 2. Does that go to another church? Mr. B, I'm near Worcester. Oh, there's 2 near Worcestershire. It's not Mr. B, my brother. Hereford. I grew up in. Don't look at myself on the screen. I should cover the screen. So I got all my data here. So I grew up in Bromyard. So I went to college in Hereford, and I know Hereford very well. So Hertfordshire. And Draper reacts just down the road from me, a couple of miles away. I saw a couple of weeks ago as I was riding past you on my motorbike, and you were with your mum. Couldn't stop, going too fast, within the speed limit. So, my friends, about the importance of finding a church. Yeah, it really is. It really is. I've been lucky in my churches as I've been going through. I had a crazy story about coming to faith. I came to faith 2010, and then within 3 years I was on the way to become a vicar in the Church of England. It's crazy. And I doubted myself so much, but there was someone who said, God's going to use you, God's going to use you. And he has so much. But I look back on my churches, and they've enabled me, and they still support me. You know, they still support me and pray for me. There's people still praying for me. So I did my course in Malvern. Oh yeah, Malvern, just down the road from Bromyard. Yeah, that's at the hills. The Black Country. Wolves, is that football team? I'm Aston Villa. I am, yeah. So my great-grandfather played for Aston Villa. He won 2 FA Cup medals. I also sang at the FA Cup final in 2015, Abide With Me, in a fans choir, and Aston Villa were in the final. There's a video. We sang with Alfie Bow. There's 64 of us, but I've changed the story to I sang at Wembley with Alfie Bow. Sounds great. And then they say, really, how? I say, well, it was, I look quite young then. It's on the pitch. You can search FA Cup fans choir. Are you married, Red Dan? And if so, did your wife find Jesus at the same time as you? I'll stay on. If you want to ask questions, I should do a question and answer. If you want to ask questions, ask questions. It's easier than talk about this LGBT pride stuff. Yes, I am. My wife is from Colombia, and so she would always say that she's Catholic, even though she goes to the same church as I did in evangelical or charismatic churches and stuff. No, I shot myself in the foot. So part of my coming to faith was through the deaths of my parents. My dad when I was 14, my mum when I was 33. So we just bought a house in this little village. My next door neighbours, who had bought the house but rented it, they just moved back from New York because they were working for World Vision, and they started going to the local church in Bicester. So we lived near Bicester, and my wife started going to church with my son, and that was great because I had Sunday mornings off. I worked in retail at the time. I was a retail manager, and it was great because I was like, yes, Sunday mornings off. She goes to church, and then my mum dies, and my mum dies on the Saturday, and I don't know how my wife did this, and I must have been so just all over the place and distraught. The next day she said, "You're not staying here by yourself like at home, you're coming with me to church." And I was like, I just went, and so that's part of my journey. Not I became a Christian that day or anything like that, but it was part of my journey. And so yeah, she started going to church just before me, and then like a year or 18 months later, she asked me, "Do you want to become a vicar?" And I said yes. Her first word was not repeatable, not online. So we kind of leapfrogged in that sense, and then she's come on this crazy journey. And oh, bless my wife, because this is the thing. See, this is the thing. So it's bang my camera. So it is great that you're praying for us as vicars and priests and pastors and ministers doing this online, but I can't believe the battery of my camera's lasted so long. It's going to go soon. I'll need to go. But I'll just show you. I have a backup. Just in case. But it's our families. It's our families. So God's called me to this, right? God's called me to this. And God's with me. And I push into Him. But my wife isn't called to my job or my children. And my children and my wife are really affected by this. So this whole stuff with the same-sex blessings has been hugely difficult. And I think really difficult for my family, really difficult. And so you've got to pray for our families. Because, yeah, it's really difficult for them. Need a lot of prayer. They follow us. More faith than me, I say. I follow God, but she's following me. She trusts me, following God. That's big trust. And God's taken us on some crazy journeys. Fun though, amazing journeys. We'll get into that another time. Do you have a favourite verse from the Gospels, Dan? I've been loving Matthew so far. Yes, I have. I did a little thing. And this is where you get my memory. So it's my verses. So actually I got from Proverbs 24, 11, 12. And that's about my purpose. And then Ephesians 4:15. And it's no longer that Christ lives in me, but me lives in Christ. Not directly from the Gospels, but from around the Bible. That I'll share that one day. Much love and appreciate you as a family. Thank you, Claire. Are you married? Oh yeah, I've been there. Viva Colombia. Okay, thanks. Never been closer to God than through suffering. It's magical the way He works. Thanks for sharing. Testimony is really encouraging. My very first video is about my testimony, and I had to record it because somebody asked me to go talk at CRE, a Christian Resources Exhibition. This great guy. This is why I started YouTube, and so I went and recorded quickly at the bottom of my garden a video about my testimony. And I admit, my testimony is quite cool, but I say everyone's testimony is very cool. Anyone who comes to God it's amazing how people come to God. I love hearing people's testimonies. And people say to me, "Oh, my testimony is so boring," and I'm like, it isn't. It's amazing that people believe in God in today's age, when there's so much proof out there, and people ignore it. It's quite amazing. KD, we are not interested at all. About what? KD. Right, my friends. I think it's 9:34. I was thinking half an hour. It's great that you have stayed with me for so long, and I really appreciate you joining me. But I'm going to go before my battery goes on my camera. I hope you got something out of tonight, and I will stop looking at myself on the screen. But I hope you got something out tonight. I hope I did answer that question, even though it's taken a long time to get through. I'll be doing these again. At the moment, I just do it once a month, perhaps, just because I'm running 3 YouTube channels and 2 parishes, and I have a family and a big garden to do, and I am full on. Luckily, at the moment, I don't need so much sleep, so I can get most of the stuff done when my family are asleep. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you for joining me. I didn't know if people would join, but it's great to have you guys with me and chatting. I hope it's been an encouragement. I hope you got something out of it. We do need to really stay together and stay on God's word, pray for each other, and get into a good church. As I said, if you're not in a good church, get into a good church. And if you can't find a good church, let me know, contact me, and I'm on a group on Facebook, and I put it out there and in the area that you live, and we'll find you a good church. So I'll see you, watch on Tuesday when I talk about what's happening in Truro Diocese, and it's going to probably happen around the Church of England. Catch up on Friday with the Rev Dunn's Roundup, and I will do another live stream next month. So have a great night. Thank you so much for being with me. You guys are amazing. Bye.